Alright, we're out here at our local 200-yard range, and we're going to be testing the charge weights that we found in our last video that shot a third MOA or better for 3 shots at 100 yards. And we're testing at 200 yards now, and we're going to do 10 shot groups. I mentioned that we're kind of doing this for our varmint match. I'm just going to try to simulate that. Those are 10 shot matches, so I'm just going to see how they group for 10 consecutive rounds without using the chiller in between. So kind of a match condition. We're testing those 5 charge weights, and then we're also testing that higher charge weight that only had an ES of 1. I think it was 30.9 grains. I did seed it another 5,000 steeper, because if you remember, it was about a half MOA tall and it was all vertical. So I just picked a generic 5,000 steeper, and we're trying it again here at 200. I just brought 5 of those, and those I'm going to kind of use as the cider. So I'll shoot 1 of those, and then 10 rounds of a certain charge weight, another 30.9 cider, 10 rounds of another charge weight, and so on. I also brought the factory ammo with because I feel like that didn't really get a fair shake when we shot it at 100 yards, and I had just really scrubbed the barrel, and it shot terrible. But then I shot it at 640 and it shot pretty good. So now that the gun's well seasoned and I haven't cleaned it recently, I'm going to shoot a few rounds at 200 and try to give it more of a fair shake and see how it does there. I think that'll be a better representation of how it's shooting at this barrel. So we're just about ready to get started here. It's a nice day. It's breezy, variable winds, so there is going to be some wind component, some horizontal component. But it's a nice day. It's about 76 degrees, and humidity's finally low, which is nice. So I'm going to give this a whirl and see how that goes. So I think we're going to start with a cider, and then, or maybe I'll start with the factory ammo, just shoot a few rounds of factory ammo down there, then do a cider, charge weight, and so on, and we'll see what we get. Alright, we're back at the bench here, and well, how did that go? Well, pretty good, I would say, overall. The results were pretty interesting, so I kind of dissected this as much as I could in a reasonable amount of time, and what I think we found was, we've kind of been referencing everything according to these precision nodes, our daily driver, sports car, top fuel, that sort of stuff. What I found that, well, what I think we're looking at is this charge weight down here that I said I was going to test, but I wasn't really sure what it was. I didn't really refer to it as anything. I think that's our daily driver. And then this one that I thought might be the daily driver, I think is actually one of these top fuels that can shoot really small but can be erratic. And then this was the other top fuel that we tested that I said also can shoot really small but can be erratic. And this one that I thought would be the sports car is, I think, the sports car. And then this one that's above it had similar results as well. So the sports car might kind of be between these two charge weights, between 30.5 grains and 30.6 grains. And I'll go over why over here. So I have, you're not going to see my mug on this part of the bench review because I got a lot of stuff on here and I want to be able to go back and forth and point to what I'm talking about. So the first charge weight that we tested was 29.5 grains. Shot a 350, 30.28 on the average, 9.9 SD, 22 ES. Well, when we took the sample size out to 10 shots at 200 yards instead of 100, our SD went up to 10.8, ES was 35, the average was 30.26, over here it was 30.28, so really consistent. I did everything in MOA rather than inches, just because I think the inches kind of skew how good the groups are. When you reference it to minute of angle, people know that reference. So this one was 0.607 on the MOA and only 0.379 on the vertical. So that shot the shortest out of any of the things that we tested. And you can see really was trying to group in these two clusters. I think there's 3 shots here, which would mean there's 6 shots in this cluster, and then the one that jumped out. Now that's at the same vertical point as this. Could that have been wind? Sure, it could have. So I'm not putting too much stock in that. It's really trying to shoot here. So that makes me think that's the daily driver. These two in the middle, I'm thinking now are the top fuel loads that I said there can be 2 top fuel loads in between the daily driver and the sports car, because these two shot the 2 smallest groups at 100 out of all of them. However, when we took them out to 200, they both opened up a little bit more. This one's not bad for the group size and the vertical, but look at our velocity metric. So this one opened up a lot. That was the biggest group we shot. Standard deviation was only 8. Extreme spread was 27, but the lab radar missed 2 of the shots. So that's skewed data. 3086 on the average. But again, kind of trying to cluster in that same area as some of these other ones, but did open up a bit more. This one, which was not that one. So this one was this one that I thought, might be the daily driver. I don't think it is. And then this one that shot the smallest group, 30.3 grains, is this one. So super small at 100, then opened up a bit more at 2. Could this have been wind? Sure. That could be some of that horizontal in there, but look at our velocity numbers. Standard deviation 14, extreme spread of 50, and we missed a shot. So had by far the worst ES, and 1 shot was unaccounted for. Which, yes, it could have been in the middle, but it could have made that extreme spread worse. So that's that. This one, which I thought was going to be the sports car, 30.5 grains, which was the, looks like 3rd smallest group at 100, shot lights out. 604 on the average, a little bit of horizontal, a couple that jumped down here, only 452 on the vertical, standard deviation of 6.2, extreme spread of 18, and the average was 3131. And it really started piling them up here, so you can see this one out by itself and these 3. That means the first 6 shots are in that little cluster. The first 5 shots, I measured it, and this was the 6th one. The first 5 here measured 0.310 center to center at 200 yards. That's 0.148 MOA for 5 shots. A lot of guys test, when they're testing ammo, they test in 3-shot increments, sometimes 5-shot increments. You can see, had I just shot the first 5 shots, it would have been 0.148 MOA, and then if I would have stopped, that would have been probably the best 5-shot group I've ever shot at 200 yards. And when you're in the 0.310, you're getting into competitive bench rest 200-yard group sizes for 5 shots, like national level competition group size. So that's incredible. The fact that it started opening up doesn't concern me too much, because this test I did not shoot round robin like I usually shoot everything. I did shoot the 10 shots consecutively. So what I did was, this was this thing up here that had an ES of 1. I brought 5 of those and just seated it 5,000 steeper than this, and I would shoot. I shot the factory ammo first. That's what this is over here. So I shot 6 rounds of factory ammo, 747 MOA group size, 552 on the vertical. I only caught 3 of these 6 velocities, so I didn't put that up here because I don't think it's relevant when I only caught half the sample size. So I shot those 6 shots, then I shot 1 of these, then 10 in a row. Then I cool the barrel for a while with the chamber chiller. Shoot 1 more, shoot 10, shoot 1 more, shoot 10, shoot 1 more, shoot 10, so on. So I didn't do round robin, I shot these consecutively.
This one was really piling up, and then it started moving around. Same with this one, really piling up, then started moving around. So the fact that the groups opened up a little bit to these, you know, 0.6 MOA, that doesn't really concern me all that much, because it was hammering for the first few shots, you know, and I shot this at a pretty rapid clip. So I was shooting a one round, probably less than one round. And how am I trying to say this? I was at a faster cadence than one round a minute. So I shot these 10 rounds in under 10 minutes for sure. It was probably more like 6 or 7 minutes. So pretty high rate of fire, no chamber chiller in between, and still they were really trying to pile them up. So, and then this one was, so again, 30.5 grains, which I thought was going to be the sports car, was up here. 30.6 grains, also shot really well, shot a 347, and it was only 1/10 higher, so I thought we'll test that too. There's 3 bullets in this hole, you can believe that. 4 up here, and then 3 down here. This actually shot the smallest group, and it's, you know, round in shape, comparatively to the other ones. Some of them are round, some of them aren't, but very round in shape. Ended up being the smallest, minute of angle wise, and kind of right in the middle. 513 of vertical, standard deviation 10, ES of 31. All 10 shots were accounted for. All 10 shots were accounted for up here. 31 on the average, 31.46. So, you know, maybe halfway in between these, I'd be at 31.37, something like that, for the sports car, which would be 110 feet a second, or 120 feet a second over what I think is the daily driver. So I said, you know, it can be 90 to 110 feet a second between the sports car and the daily driver, and that's about what we have here. This is 105 feet a second difference with the 2 top fuels in the middle. This might be the other top fuel, but I think we'd have to play with the seating depth to get that to shoot, because it's already a 699 and a 520 vertical, with only 5 shots. The interesting thing though is the SD was 8.7, ES was 24. 4 of these shots, the ES was only 5. And then one of them added 19 feet a second to the ES and completely screwed the pooch on the standard deviation. So this thing was really consistent, but it had one outlier that jumped way out. Now maybe if we played with the seating depth and found where it was happy, like these, maybe that outlier would go away. I don't know. I don't know that we're going to pursue that, because it's getting up into the higher pressures where we don't really want to be. Now, one thing I found that was really, really interesting is that if these are in fact the daily driver and the sports car, the velocities of these are the same as when we had N540. So we changed powders, but the velocity location didn't change, which is really interesting. So we kind of still achieved what we wanted to. We did not get the daily driver up to 3070, 3080, which we thought we were going to be able to do. But we stayed, like I said, we stayed at the same velocities for the 2, which means we got there with less pressure. And I figured that out according to Gordon's for whatever that's worth. This one, we achieved the same velocity by going slower in powder from 540 to 550, but we did it with almost 3,000 psi less. It's 2,800 or 2,938 psi lower. This one, we achieved the same velocity at about 1,600 psi lower. So I thought that was really, really interesting, considering that at this seating depth, N540 shot really well, and N550 shot really well, and at the same velocity. And then up in the sports car, same thing, and at about the same seating depth. We never tested the sports car with N540 at this seating depth, but we were within I think it was 2.5 thousandths. I mean, so we're going to call it good enough. But I found that to be incredibly interesting that both powders shot at the same velocities. So that was probably the most surprising thing of the day. But anyway, overall, I think it shot pretty good. Can we try to tune these a little bit with seating depth? Maybe go seat them deeper and see if, you know, because we changed powder, maybe they'll shoot a little better at a slightly different seating depth. Yes, we can. Is the juice worth the squeeze? I don't know. I think at a minimum it'd be worth shooting these two at farther ranges and see how they compare to the daily driver and the sports car that we had with N550, and see how they hold together at 640. Maybe I'll shoot them all at, well, the daily driver for N540 we already shot at 640 and 1030. But maybe I'll shoot these two at 640 and 1030, and then maybe also the sports car with N540 at the same distances, just so we have a fair comparison at both distances with the daily driver and sports car with both powders, and we can, you know, maybe we'll notice a pattern or a trend there. So I think that's what's next. Now I just have to decide which one of these I want to use for the varmint match. I'm thinking this one, just because it probably would have been the smallest group if we didn't have this one jump out. It would have been, I mean, I know it would have been the smallest group with the smallest vertical also. So I think for the 200-yard varmint match, I think that might be the ticket. But when we stretch it out to 640 and 1030, I think this one's going to win the day of the two. I think this one will shoot better. But we'll see. I think that's what we're going to do next. So the next video I'll probably be testing these at distance. And between then I'll shoot that varmint match. But I think that's where we're headed. I don't know if it's worth testing between these two. I don't think so. I think I'll probably just stick with that charge weight. And I don't think we'll pursue this top fuel up here. Or either of these in the middle, because they're, like I said, they're kind of falling apart. You know, where they shot great at 100, but you know, once we stretched it out a little bit more, it kind of started falling apart. Which, you know, I thought that one would stay together. That one I didn't think would, and this one I didn't know what to make of it, because, you know, like I said, I didn't know that you could completely change powder, and the daily driver and the sports car would stay at the same velocity. I didn't think that was a thing, but, you know, maybe it is. Maybe with this cartridge it is. And the combination of components we're using, maybe it is. Who knows? So that's all we got for this one. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And I think the next one, like I said, I think we'll see you out at the private farm and stretch these babies out. Thanks.